Chivalrous Sam phones a friend, Part 1, or why winning anything has never sucked so much by Lady_Zebra. This will be the third installment of Sam the Chivalrous. Player 1 is me, Lady Zebra, 16 at the time, foreign exchange student here on a 2-year program. Undergoing culture shock and suffering chronic cringe pain from daily interactions with Sam. Player 2 is Samwell Spaghetti Breath, king of the annalini, the ravioli, and the fettuccine, lord of the sandal socks, and protector of the ladies. Complete lard, wears cargo shorts, Minecraft hoodie, New Balance sneakers, and Argyle fedora. He reeks like the garbage disposal of an Italian restaurant. Supporting character 3 is John, previously identified as Cute Boy. Slightly taller than Sam, he and I share a lot of common interests, or are, at the very least, interested in each other's interests. We're not dating yet, but it's heading in that direction. He and his family are from Louisiana, so he speaks passable French, with a funny accent that I make fun of often. AskFred.net is an online registration system, used to sign up for fencing tournaments. It's a great tool to see who is going to be at a tournament and how many fencers will attend. This story takes place the Sunday after Sam's first fencing lesson, at a local tournament. It's a rather large event with a great mix of fencers. My coaches regularly send email updates to our group with upcoming tournaments, and Sam is on this list. After a few days of school and minor cringy run-ins with Sam, I'm looking forward to a Sunday of competing for the first time in a long time, and the first time in America. The Saber event is in the afternoon, foil is in the morning, and AP is in between. I register on AskFred a few days prior. John has expressed an interest in my fencing, so he's tagging along to watch this tournament. It's about an hour drive, so we sit in the backseat and talk shit about our classes. Both he and my host mother don't know much about fencing tournaments, so I'm also waxing eloquent on that subject. Regarding my appearance, I'm almost a polar opposite of how I present myself in practice. I do my hair in loose pigtails, apply eyeliner and blush, generally get dolled up. The makeup I use deals really well with sweat, but it's expensive, so I only wear it to tournaments. The purpose here is to look innocent and harmless. It throws off the competition, and I look great in my medal photos. We arrive right on time, as AP is finishing up and awarding medals. The last competitors are stumbling out, sweaty and gross, grinning like idiots on their victory rush. This tourney is being held in a dusty downstairs dojo, pretty upscale as far as tournaments go. It smells like fermenting sweat, and vaguely like marinara sauce. I sign in at the registration desk before descending. There he is. Chivalrous Sam is perched atop the bleachers, staring into my soul from across the room. His fedora is covering a mass of dried sweat and grease that might have once been hair. Sam hails me with both a full arm wave and a tip of the fedora, like he can't quite decide which will win Milady's heart. He gets to his feet and jog gallops down the bleacher steps, meeting me halfway. John, who had been walking behind me, draws up on my left. "Hi Lady Zebra. You look quite ravishing today." I'm about to say thanks and move on, when John cuts in. "Yay," she does in a warm tone of voice, and lays a hand on my elbow. It turns into a Mexican standoff while these two rooster people suck in their breath and puff out their chests. Bark bark bark. I shoulder my way past Sam with John beside me, set my stuff down against the wall, and warm up with stretchers. John sits on the bleachers next to me, and we talk about Sam. I'm not sure if Sam was here to fence, and just stayed another 3 hours to watch me fence, or if he saw I was signed up and dropped in. Both prospects are equally discomforting. Sam is still standing in the middle of the room, trying to contain his anger that his chivalry was slighted by some douchebag. His nightly intuition must have indicated that I needed saving from the chivalrousness of John, because he joins our conversation. "You here to fence today?" "No, I came for the therapy." "Oh, hey Sam. Yay, I'm going to do Saber in a bit. Cool beans. You look good today. Are you wearing makeup? Here we go. Yay indeed, that's a pity. You shouldn't need to. I think natural beauty is the best way to go. I smile awkwardly and nod, trying to work my way out of my own head so I can perform today. Sam opens his mouth to say something, when John cuts him short. Sam, Lady Saber is trying to warm up. John, Lady Saber and I are trying to conversate, can you please not butt into our discussion please? John shakes his head and looks away. I finish my stretching routine, still a long way from my groove, and dress into my uniform, while Sam sizes me up. Hess making my skin crawl. In most fencing tournaments, there are 2 rounds of competition. The first, called pools, splits everyone off into groups of 4 to 6. You fence everyone in your pool, to get a feeling of how everyone is fencing that day. All the bouts are to 5 points. The pools are distributed so that players with a lettered rank are evenly split among lower-ranked and unranked fencers. After pools, everyone is seeded into a bracket for direct elimination. These bouts are to 15 points. The loser is knocked out, and the winner advances. The ranking system goes from A, professional, Olympic, generally expert level, down to E, which is novice. Under E ranked there is U, which is unranked. U fencers are highly unpredictable, as it only means that they haven't competed very much, or haven't competed recently. Someone can practice for 10 years without competing, and they'll still be a U. In this case, because I had not competed in America before, my rating was a U. I'll answer more questions about this in the comments, but we gotta keep this story moving. My first pool bout played right into my hands. My opponent was ranked E, and it had clearly gone to his head. He swaggers onto the strip, sizing me up. I play silly, tossing my hair and looking overly excited and nervous. We come on guard, I score my first touch quickly. I act surprised, ask the ref did I get it? My opponent is a little miffed, but tries again. I land a touch on the side of his mask. Hits like this make your ears ring, and he makes a frustrated noise. Next, I hit him hard on the cuff. He realizes by now I'm a little more than I appear to be, but he can't compensate, and the bout ends 5-0. I flounce and eagerly shake his hand. Sir Sam is up in the bleachers, cheering for me louder than he realizes. It's more obnoxious than enthusiastic, and really cringe-worthy because he's pretty much the only person cheering. He yells encouragements the whole time like get em Lady Saber and yay, that's my girl. The pattern is the same for the next 4 bouts. It's almost as helpful as a back pocket on a shirt. Finally, pools are finished. There's some downtime between pools and direct eliminations, while the referees turn in score sheets and everyone is seeded. Sir Sam takes this chance to woo Lady. He approaches me looking overly excited, with his fedora in one hand, waving it like a slimy, wriggling fish. You fenced really well Lady Saber. Thanks, Sam. You know, I noticed that John wasn't cheering you on at all. You probably didn't see, but I was the whole time. That's because I told him how annoying it is when you're competing. Yay, I heard. It's usually better if you don't make so much noise, it can be really distracting on the strip. Sam looks dejected for a moment, before getting visibly mad. You know, I was just trying to help. You don't have to be so rude about it just because I'm distracting you. I didn't have to stay at this tournament all day just for you, Lady Saber. I'm just being nice. I wish I had a pocket full of cookies to give you, Sam, for being such a nice guy. After enduring this tirade of supreme kindness, it's time for direct eliminations. I seeded well, so my first few matches are easy. Sir Sam, of course, takes a seat behind me, and moves seats between bouts, often crossing the room, to be consistently sitting behind me, and cheers with all the gusto of a squealing piglet. I never quite find a rhythm, and lose the final bout, taking a silver medal and earning a rank of E. Says Sam is totally thrilled. I don't think Hess ever felt more responsible for someone else's victory than in this moment. He shambles toward me going for a hug, which I turn into a handshake, quickly reconsider, and turn into a fist bump. He shakes the fist vigorously. Keep in mind that I'm standing for a medal photo with the 3 other medalists, while all of their friends, family, and coaches are taking pictures. The result is a photobomb of Hiroshima proportions, which I would post here in a heartbeat if it didn't involve revealing both of our faces. Sam realizes that Hess made a no-no when he turns to see a phalanx of camera phones awaiting his swift exodus. He tries to play it off, removing his fedora in a sweeping bow, like, hey, I'm a medalist too. Ha ha, look, I'm with the medal winners in their picture. So funny. He has a cartoonish nervous smile pasted on, which is quickly wiped away as the crowd starts to jeer him out of the shot. He tries to walk away with his pride. He keeps his distance while I remove my uniform and pack up to leave. As I head for the door, though, I'm intercepted by Sam, much in the way that an actual Sam might intercept a jumbo jet full of orphans. Hey LivelyZebra, can I ask a favor of you? Can I refuse? What is it, Sam? Well, I need a ride home. What do you mean, isn't your mom coming to pick you up? Or are you tired of having her get up into your business? Well, she dropped me off, but I didn't know what time to have her pick me up, so I was just hoping you could give me a ride. Ah, very clever Sam, very clever ploy indeed. Only a master strategist like yourself could conjure such a flawless plan to spend time with m'lady. Sorry, Sam, but my car only has room for John and I to sit. Oh, oops. Well, how am I supposed to get home, then? I don't know, Sam, but I really can't help you. Okay, fine. Guess I'm just not deserving of a simple ride home. What? Sam, I just told you, Terry's not enough room in whatever, LivelyZebra. Can I just use your phone to call my mom? I give him my phone, and he makes an exasperated call home. In listening to the one-sided dialogue, it sounds like he told his mom in advance that I would be taking him home. He hangs up, and gives me my phone back with an addition of sweat crust, and stalks off without another word. John, my host mother and I pile into the car and make our drive home. I had not seen, heard, the last of him that day, but that's coming up next.
Short 1. Try to befriend someone on Overwatch. By LivelyZebra. Sorry it's short, but they kinda blocked me smile. So I was up all night playing Overwatch as I'm gonna try to reset my sleep and push through the day, nothing like gaming to keep you awake, right? Anyway, I was doing 1v1 mystery duels and I was mostly fucking around and hiding from people, then coming out to fight, poorly at the last second. About 5 AM I felt bad one game and said hey sorry that I'm not much fun, been a long night. The guy responded that no worries, I'm having a crappy night too. So I decided to do something different and ask what's up? They go on about being alone is the best thing they can do and such, and I reached out and said do you wanna chat? Sometimes people could do with a friend. And we moved to Discord and typed there. It went downhill fast. I learned that they 1. Have an anime girl profile pic. 2. Their Overwatch name was an anime girl name. 3. Their Discord was linked to their Steam, and in the Steam profile had anime girl pic plus links to Instagram with more anime girls and general anime stuff. 4. Type to moo a lot. All within 2 to 3 minutes. I then learned they're 21, living with just their mother, no job, no education, no real life friends. And the following exchanges occur. Screenshot 1. Screenshot 2. I was then blocked after that last reply. Did I say anything out of line? Was I too harsh? I felt this story belonged here, especially after the whole attitude towards working, the umu, and the weeb shit. Sorry if not. Hope someone's enjoyed it. I don't usually post stories of my own making.
Neckbeard just wants m'lady to understand him. By deleted. Hello friends. You may not remember me, but I wrote a series of real-life stories involving an iconic and utterly euphoric figure infamously named Neckbeard Mike. I had long forgotten about posting stories on here, and I recently reread them after getting a few messages asking me to post some more. Due to this, I remembered a few stories I had not told the great community that is r/NeckbeardStories. The following story took place a few years ago. It is possibly the most fucked up, and will paint NM in a very disturbing light. It is not an overly long narrative, however the deep, dark past of NM was revealed, and this is what made me cut all contact. Please, I urge you, I really and truly do urge you, to sit back, relax, and tune in for another greasy tale of the one, the only, Neckbeard Mike. Be me, 21, at the time, almost finished my Bachelor of Education and ready to party. Dear sweet Mother of God, if there is one, do not be Neckbeard Mike, engineering student, greasy, hairy, euphoric, you get the idea. This story begins the day after Neckbeard Mike ran over a pigeon, and took me home from our mutual friend Sam's house, without me ever actually telling him where I lived. It started with a simple message thread. NM, hey chemical uprising, what's hanging? Me, hey not much man, get some rest after the trip to Sam's? NM, yeah got a bit, so I was wondering if you were free today? Have some shit I want to get off of my chest. You I trust, you deserve to know this, you can help me move past it. Me, what exactly do you mean? NM, I'll tell you when I arrive. See you in a bit. Was slightly confused because we didn't have plans today and I had a massive assignment to finish. I was also pretty drained from the events that had taken place the day before. See, Neckbeard Mike just wanted M'lady to enjoy r/incest and dead pigeons, and did not really want to see him this soon. However, I low-key wanted to know what had NM in such a weird state, so I figured we could go Macca's, have a chat, and that would be the end of it. Or so I had thought. NM rocked up around 15 minutes later, as he lived in a suburb that was quite close to mine. As I got into his car, yes I know I am retarded, no need to point it out in the comments. I literally hung out with him due to sheer curiosity as his personality was whack AF. I know now I could have been putting myself in a potentially dangerous situation, but here I am alive and well so I noticed NM seemed reality off. He was usually pretty fucking cooked, but today he seemed anxious, nervous AF and just plain fucking weird. I said hello etc. and asked him what he wanted to talk about. He said not here, we need to go someplace more private. Now, we were literally in a car, with the windows rolled up, doors locked and there weren't many cars on the road, so I asked him how much more private did you want to get. He chuckled slowly and said you will see my dear acquaintance. First of all, I thought he was either going to murder me, or we were burying a dead body of someone else he had just murdered. As I was not new to NM's antics, I played along thinking everything would be fine. After 25 minutes of small talk about the weather, food and bird funerals, we had finally arrived to our destination. We weren't anywhere I recognized, and we were parked in front of a 2-story brick house. It looked weathered and certainly lived in. Me, what are we doing here? I don't even know where I am? NM, this is where it all begun. Me, where what begun man? NM, do you remember how I was telling you yesterday that I had done some bad things in my lifetime? Me, I guess so. NM, well this is the beginning of a sequence of bad choices I have made, although not regretted. Me, okay man spill it, where are we? NM, it happened a year ago, inside that very house. Someone I wronged, but why did it feel oh so right? I was beginning to become uncomfortable. Whatever happened in that house and whoever it happened to was none of my business and I did not feel okay knowing we were parked so close to this someone's house. NM, it happened last year. I lived next door to single mom Michelle and her 12-year-old daughter Holly. Now Michelle worked long hours, and me being the gentleman I am offered to babysit Holly whenever she needed. I suddenly did not like where this story was going, and was about to tell NM that maybe we should leave and he could finish the story elsewhere. NM, Now Holly was a stunning little girl. Tanned skin, energetic. I knew I liked her straight away. Me, Mike, whatever happened, you don't need to tell me, nor do I really want to know. But you I trust. Please just listen because I am in an awkward position due to what happened. I sat in silence waiting. Every noise outside seemed to echo in my mind. I was terrified that I would be told something that I couldn't help fix. Holly and I became very close. It was a relationship I had longed for all my life, the only downside being her age. Apart from that small something that society has irrational negative emotions about, it was perfect. These were the literal words coming out of his mouth. The ramblings of a madman. See that house over there, he said while pointing to the 2-story brick house. That is the house. Michelle went to work one day, and as soon as she left I made my move. Holly was on the couch and I went over to her. Now I never made the first move. But one thing led to another and there I was receiving my first BJ from a minor. Now I knew it was wrong but I didn't care. I let her finish and as I was finishing on her Michelle came home. She forgot her purse. I simply got up, walked to the front door and left. Here I was, sitting there stunned. Hearing that received oral from a 12-year-old had me disgusted. Enraged, pissed the fuck off. Me, please tell me you didn't just leave without saying something, anything. I wasn't going to get my ass beat by Michelle. She was fat as fuck and I was so relaxed from the BJ that I wanted to go home and sleep. By that point I was done. Now to the dilemma. Holly recently got into a relationship. To this douchebag named Brad. Me, and? Well, Brad fucking added me on Facebook yesterday. I am assuming Holly told him all about what happened and again, I ain't about to get my ass beat. Me, Mike. You got a 12-year to suck you off, you left her fucking house without feeling any sort of remorse or guilt, and now you're raving on about her new BF adding you on FB. It's not all about you. Yeah, but I just don't see why Holly would tell him anything. At this point I beyond annoyed that he took me here, unloaded his baggage on me, and was being a complete dick about it all. Me, why did you take me here? I want you to take me home. Now. I have one request. I need you to go inside of Holly's house, steal Brad's phone and give it to me so I can delete his social media. It's the only way. Chemical uprising, I know you can do it. Me, okay. 1. Why the fuck do you think I would do that for you? 2. How do you know Brad is even in there? 3. How the fuck would I pull that off? You've lost the plot. Take me the fuck home. Please. Chemicalizing. I made sure Brad was there before I left to pick you up. His car is parked out front. If you won't go in, then I will. The spare key is under the big rock in the front. Me, I'm done. I will call the police if you do anything to these poor people. Take me home, I am done. If you won't do it, then I will. I was stunned. I had sent my location to my sister so that she could come and get me as was talking. I needed to get away from this bloody idiot. I was going to call the cops if he actually left, but my mind was such a whirl I didn't know what the fuck to actually do. Left the car and I saw him run to the front door. Like he had previously mentioned, the key was under a large rock. I saw him unlock the front door, and disappear inside. I did not want to be caught up in the middle of this, so I left his car and ran around the corner, to wait for my sister. She came 15 minutes later. All while was inside and had not come back to his car. As I got into my sister's car I told her to drive away now. I filled her in on what had happened and she was so worried for me and what he might try and do. Hours later that same night, wrote a bunch of Facebook statuses about loyalty and how people these days are not what they used to be, all statuses directly aimed at me. I blocked him, and didn't hear from him for a while. When I did, shit literally hit the fan. But that's a story for another time. I thank you dearly for tuning in. Please refrain from commenting you're a bad person, You should have helped Holly. New Mexico is dangerous when truth is, I had no idea what the actual fuck was going on, and it wasn't my place to get involved. When I got home, I tried to find Holly or Brad on Facebook before I blocked Mike to reach out to them, to no avail. To this day I do not know what happened to Holly or Brad, however a few days after the event I saw NM with noticeable bruising on his face. If you wanna hear more, please let me know. Stay euphoric, everyone.
You can't go to Japan. By Omens_6. In my school, it was a small school, everyone knows each other to some degree. There was this one kid who everyone knows and was infamous in the school. He would constantly flirt with girls and would make the girls weirded out by how he would act and what he would say, do nice things for them and expect a blowjob in return and other stuff like that. The only thing not making me call him a neckbeard is a fact he is really religious. He was a total weeb. He would always wear anime shirts, some were legit hentai, read manga in the classroom, and took our high school Japanese class so he can watch anime without reading the subtitles. He failed the class because he didn't take it seriously, ironic. The few times I was teamed up with him we talked for a bit about anime in Japan and other stuff like that, but as soon as the conversation turned into anything that wasn't about anime or Japan he would always respond with I guess to the few times I was teamed up with him for group projects. He told multiple different kids he was Japanese when he was a pure Afghan and would try to speak Japanese but would make himself look stupid. My school was an early college school, and since my school was linked up with a college, once a year during the summer, the school would have a study abroad trip to a different country for college credits, for 2 weeks for juniors going into their senior year. Some of the past countries were Spain, England, and Iceland. That year, the year I was in, the country on the list was Japan. When they announced the list to everyone, I wanted to go. You had to have requirements meet in order for you to go on the trip, such as a certain GPA and cough up the money. Granted, the money you'd cough up would pay for the hotel rooms, travel, etc., so it was worth it. He also wanted to go, but instead of doing anything like trying to get a good grade, he'd skip class and stay in the hallway watching anime with no headphones on and blast Japanese music. Throughout the whole year he wouldn't do anything, no helping out with the fundraising, not doing any work, not even giving in money from what I understand. The list of kids that were picked for going to Japan was selected and I was on that list. I was ecstatic because I worked my ass off to get in and it paid off. But he wasn't on that list. When he found out he wasn't selected to go to Japan he flipped out and had a temper tantrum about how he didn't get selected. He turned his anger out on me and started yelling at the top of his lungs, "You can't go to Japan. You probably don't even watch anime, why are you going to Japan?" After the principal pulled him away I just started laughing because I didn't know what to do. After that there really isn't much to say, although he still posts about this on social media to this day, after 2 years went by.
3DS neckbeards eating 3 corn dogs each at a steakhouse by SwolebiWanKenobi. So I work at a nice steakhouse and normally I just get a bunch of fat people stories to tell, but last night I had a wonderful encounter with 3 stereotypical neckbeards while serving the little birthday party they were having. Also I'm in my phone, so yeah. Formatting shit and autocorrect stuff might happen. So the steakhouse I work at is nice as hell, amazing food, and we are known for our amazing service. I had a reservation for 11 people come into my section for a 34th birthday party. Fuck yeah, free cake. Everyone seemed normal until the last 4 people came in. It was awesome. I honestly probably had a smile on my face when I saw these 3 shuffling in like drunk penguins behind this nice-looking old man. So Necky 1 was a girl, roughly 350 pounds, 5 feet 9 inches, clothes that were too small, hair that could cause a grease fire. Necky 2 was a guy that screamed potential school shooter, PSS 5 feet 5 inches, chunky like peanut butter but not too overweight, wore all black, greasy black wire hair that went down to his exposed ass crack, wearing a beanie pulled almost completely over his eyes, acne for days, and a pencil mustache any 6th grade Mexican child would be proud of. Necky 3 looked like if the first 2 did the fusion dance, about 5 feet 8 inches pushing 250 pounds, shoulder-length grease fire hair covered by a beanie pulled down to his eyes, wearing a too small fairy tale shirt and cargos. So I'm just gonna call this guy Natsu. So they all finally sit down and immediately the Neckbeard 3 all pull out 3DSs and start playing their games at full fucking volume. Seriously, I'd quit it is with Neckbeard/weeaboos blaring all their shit constantly, but it needs to stop. So thank God the mom had some class and told them to turn the sound off, and they grunted in protest, then turned the volume off. I started asking everyone what they wanted to drink and saved them for last because I knew they would take fucking forever to figure out the drink menu. Since we didn't have Mountain Dew, they spend a good 3 minutes, forever in restaurant time, bickering over the superiority of Dr. Pepper to root beer. Then they got Pepsi. All my fucking hate. Now let me explain their smell. If smelling like a combo of 30 years of dead dreams and failure had a smell, it would smell like these three. I could honestly taste when these fuckers had a shower last from all the smell that they radiated. I swear they survive of tuna and Hot Pockets because that's what it smelled like, plus BO I feel sorry for the tables surrounding them. So I get all the drinks, bread, and appetizers out to them and go over the menu and give them time to look it over while I go apologize to my surrounding tables about the smell and see if anyone needs a gas mask. A couple minutes go by and I start taking orders from everyone. I get to the Neckbeard 3 and take a deep breath of clean air and go in. Me, what will you be having tonight, sir? Not so. Do you guys have corn dogs? Are you fucking serious? Me, well yeah, but it's on the kids menu so they aren't big and it will come with fries. Not so. Well, can I have 3 orders? Me, sure, 1 for each of you guys or what? Not so. No, just for me. All of this went down while he was balls deep in his video game, not making eye contact once. I look over at his mom and she is giving me this sad, defeated, disappointed look as she says, yeah, just give it to him, hun. Me, alright, so fries with all of that? Not so. Can I have a side of mac and cheese? Inner me wants to kill him. Me, no, that's another kid's entree, you can get fries or sliced apples. He let out this wail call of desperation and finally gave in. I'm turning blue from holding my breath this whole time and I still have 2 more neckies to go through. Give me strength. I turn to Necky 1 and ask her what she wants and luckily she orders the exact same thing. So far that's 6 corn dogs for 2 people. Guess what PSS orders? If you guessed the same fucking thing, congratulations, you must be feeling the hate radiating of my words. 9 goddamn corn dogs for these people. My kitchen staff looked at me like I was Satan punching babies when I sent this ticket into them. My manager came up to me and asked me if it was right and all I said was go look at that table and ask me again if it's right. So I'm waiting for the food to get prepared and I'm doing copious refills of Pepsi for these 3 every single minute. Just a little side note, if I set your drink down in front of you and you chug it before I can even set the rest of the drinks down, I automatically hate you. No one is that thirsty, and every single server ever hates you. Now back to the story. Food comes out. I check on everyone occasionally to see how they're doing and the corn dogs have not been touched because of video games take priority over food. Cake time. I love cake time because I always get free cake, they all sing to birthday mom and I pass out the slices and everyone is happy. Corn dogs still haven't been touched. Me, so do you guys want some boxes for the corn dogs to take home? Not so. No, they're too cold now, I don't want them. Me. The mom with a steel tone that could cut through the most chivalrous Neckbeard's katana. Not so, you needed 3 so badly you are going to get a box and that's it. I just walked away and came back with the boxes and 180'd out of there for a couple mins to check on other tables. Finally it's time for the bill. So kids' food at my restaurant is about $8.99, so multiply that times 9 plus on top of $8 steaks, you get a fat check and a shocked grandpa paying for it all. He looked at the mom and she just did a little I know nod and slipped him money for the corn dogs. I think the bill came out to $429 after drinks, alcohol, and appetizers. He paid it and left me $100 for my pain and suffering. As everyone is leaving, I'm circling the checkbook like a hungry shark waiting for them to turn their backs so I can take it and clock off. Natsu turns to the grandpa. Natsu, grandpa, can you take us to the store so we can buy a video game? GP, did you finish your dinner? Natsu, no, because it was too cold, and GP, well, I guess the game is too cold to get. He turns and walked away like the fucking savage he is. Yeah, it was a long annoying night, but that tip made it all worth it. Edit. Okay, I worked last night and it's $6.99. That includes the corn dog, sides, and drink. Sorry I gave you all an aneurysm about corn dog prices.
Neckbeard calls for backup, gets shut down. I'm not his brethren by deleted. So, I'll preface this with saying I'm a bigger guy, have a beard, and I like hats. Yes, sometimes they do include fedoras and whatnot. They stay in my closet until an appropriate time to wear them. Anyway, me and a group of friends were stopping for some food at a late-night diner after being at a 1950s Madman Esquire themed party being held by the local animal shelter as a fundraiser. A group of us from work like pets, like madmen, and figured this would be a fun time. The evening was going well, everyone was having a good time. I'm in a suit and fedora for the party, sitting with several other guys and girls all dressed up similarly. There's about 7 of us around a table, enjoying a very late dinner and coffee. The place was dead save a table of sorority sisters and what looks like a LARP group. Neckbeard tries to start up a conversation with a sorority, gets shot down. Then 2 of them try it at the same, and now the girls are getting uncomfortable. One of the girls says pretty loudly, "Could you, go away? We don't want to talk to you." One of the guys looks directly at me since our table is right next to theirs and says, "Can you believe this, man? I just try to be nice and make conversation, and look how rude they are." They're not being rude. This isn't a bar, this is a Denny's. You're kind of expected to stay at your own table. I say. What? Don't tell me you're siding with them. I mean, clearly you're one of us. Ah, that's where you're on. You're trying to tell me you're not LARPing too? Vamp, it looks like? You're our brethren. I'm annoyed at this point. No, we're not LARPing. We're having dinner. Just as they are. Whatever you're doing, you can go do it. I'm not your brethren. I'm not an asshole trying to push my way on other people's tables and make people uncomfortable. Now, go sit down. He assumed he had found a fellow neckbeard by look, and he was disappointed to find not all people with beards and fedoras are his brethren.
I invited Lady Legbeard into my apartment. By eraser_dust. This happened several months after the previous story. So by now, I got introduced to both the Kevins, because Joan was actually stalking them for real. She would keep waiting outside their door for them to return, follow them around, etc. So, one Kevin was an Asian guy, and the other Kevin was a white guy. She used to say really uncomfortable stuff like, "I think I'll have both, so I have a set, one Asian, one white." This was about a decade ago, so I've blocked out most of the cringe, but it was definitely more inappropriate and often more racist than that. She would always call the Asian Kevin the name of some anime character, can't remember now, and I lost touch with him. The white guy got equally cringy nicknames like the Little Prince, but the incident I remembered the most was her affectionately calling him a Nazi. First of all, how the fuck do you think Nazi is a term of endearment? Especially coming from a person who'd definitely be euthanized in Nazi Germany. Secondly, yes, white Kevin has very conservative views, but calling him a Nazi is a stretch, and obviously offensive to him. Anyway, turned out there was a sad misunderstanding between us. I thought the Kevins were close to her, and because I thought they were cool, I felt obligated to keep interacting with Joan too. Meanwhile, Asian Kevin had a thing for one of my friends, and I think they thought I was cool too, I'm cool _, but the Kevins also thought Joan was a close friend of mine. So we all ended up hanging out together with Joan, because all of us thought she came with the package. I'm making it sound like I ended up BFFs with Joan and hanging out with her a lot, but it wasn't exactly like that. The Kevins Joan attended every Asian Students Gay Straight Alliance, GSA, events, and since I was president of the Asian Student Association and really active in GSA, we ended up meeting frequently. I always make sure I talk to everyone, so I talk to them, but I usually can only spend about 5 minutes with each group of friends since I was running around. I know I come off as really shallow because of that. Joan, The Kevins and I only hung out together independently of these club events once or twice, and afterwards, we kept not finding the time to hang out with each other since Asian Kevin finally hooked up with my friend and no longer pushed for us to hang out. Since Joan spent most group conversations saying weird, random shit or giving me that condescending smile, I honestly still didn't know her that well. Anyway, I found her outside my on-campus apartment and she told me she was waiting for someone. I asked Joan if she would like to wait in my apartment. I know. Bad. But I was feeling kinda bad I never had time to hang out, and I tend to automatically invite people without thinking. Yup, I often create really awkward situations that way. I blame being one of the school's international student representatives, that meant I had to help incoming foreign freshmen get adjusted to the school on top of being paraded whenever they need a token foreign student. As a result, I always had an open door policy and kept inviting people over on autopilot. BTW, I've had people who came off as more awkward than Joan because of cultural differences, and they were fine when I invited them over, so there was no way I was expecting what happened next. It started out a bit normally. I asked her who she was waiting for and she mentioned a girl in her group of friends. We did that whole, "Do you know her? I think you know her" dance and I ended up taking out my laptop so she could show me who that girl is on Facebook. Joan ended up taking over my laptop and going through my friends list. Apparently I was friends with a lot of hot guys. Well, we went to college in LA. 80% of the school is damn hot. I agreed with her and turned out, Joan could have a normal conversation when it comes to discussing who she thought was hot. Then she started going through the girls and getting really bitchy. They were either ugly, sluts, bimbos, or a combination of those. These were my friends so obviously I was pretty pissed. All the girls she labeled as ugly were definitely prettier than her. There's such thing as drop-dead gorgeous yet highly intelligent girls, and if they're sluts, more power to them. Everything coming out of her mouth can basically be compiled into another ironic song, only with the correct definition of irony. Here were some of the lines she came up with. It must be so hard having a conversation with her. The girls here are all sluts, it's harder for girls who won't put out for every guy like me. These are definitely fake boobs, so sad how hard girls try to impress guys. Bitch, you're waiting outside their dorm rooms trying to stalk them. I just don't get along with girls, I'm a guy's girl. Like I like guy stuff more and I don't like girly things. When prompted about what she meant by guy stuff, she eventually settled with anime and manga. I read manga too. Still get along with girls. So screw her. Ugh, look at her posing with that Xbox. I just hate fake gamer girls. When I tried to correct her, she just treated me like I was an idiot, and the smile she kept giving me was most definitely condescending. Initially, I was giving her a pass because by now I figured she had really low self-esteem and that was why she often told all those BS stories. I got annoyed, so I tried to get rid of her going, "Say, that girl you're supposed to meet up, is she back yet?" And she went, "I actually want to hang out with her friend, he's really hot, let me show you." Yes, the guy she showed me was damn hot, but I immediately noticed his Facebook relationship status. "Oh, bad idea," I told her, "he's in a relationship." She gave me a snide smile. "Well, that never stopped you." Wait. Duh. Fuck. Where the fuck is that coming from? I don't ever go after people in relationships and she didn't know me well enough to make any judgment on me. "What do you mean?" I asked her. "Well, you'd do anything to get a guy you wanted, right? It's so typical." She replied snidely. "What do you mean? I'd never go after someone in a relationship." I snapped back. "Okay, I was getting a bit too defensive, but who wouldn't?" "Sure you won't," Joan replied while giving me that condescending smile again. She started doing that weird disconnected stories and statements thing, which she mistook for conversation, again. From what I gathered through the garble of stream of consciousness crap coming out of her mouth, Joan had this idea in her head about how popular girls behave. In her mind, they were all bitchy, fake, dumb, slutty, and will do anything to secure a guy. For some absurd reason, she lumped me in the popular girls group. I have no idea why. I was and still am quite a loser. Yes, because of my roles as an international student representative, president of the Asian Club and being active in the GSA, I end up knowing a lot of people. But that definitely did not make me cool. I think people liked me just because I could answer essential questions like, "So, these dorm room inspections. What are they and what can I theoretically do if I happen to have private stuff I'd like to keep private?" Or, "Where can I get instant Japanese curry sauce / Korean instant noodles / real Indonesian chili / etc.?" Or, Help, I forgot my I-20, I'm in the airport right now and may get deported. The office for international students is closed because it's Sunday, who the hell do I call? Yes, I was often too busy to hang out with her, but I was actually busy doing uncool stuff like writing essays, studying, and telling paranoid parents that I had been in America for nearly 3 years and had never been shot or witnessed a shooting. Achievement unlocked. I know, promising to hang out and never having the time to do it made me seem fake to some people, but I genuinely do want to hang out with everyone. I just didn't have the time unless I pick up a time turner or a coke habit. So yeah, I was not a popular kid in any way. And I'm not being modest, I accidentally ended up in a single sorority-dominated study abroad program one summer, and they made sure I knew how uncool I was. I could only conclude that in Joan's mind, anyone with friends was instantly one of the bitchy popular kids. Since I really didn't deserve that stupid judgment from her, I decided to kick her out politely. Hey, so sorry Joan, but I have to study now, so I'm going to go off and study, okay? Aren't you a sociology major? She was a communications major. I bit back a bitchy reply and went, yes, and that's why I have a lot of reading to do. You're failing, huh? She said with that condescending smile that made me want to smash a frying pan into her face. Bitch. Okay, I hate being a stereotype, but I care a lot about my grades. I'm not naturally smart, so I worked damn hard to maintain my GPA while taking way too many classes so I could graduate early. I went through too many sleepless, stressed out nights not to be damn proud of all the work I put in. I later found out from White Kevin that Joan's GPA was a 2.2 or lower. I know grades aren't an indicator of intelligence, but I strongly feel someone getting a C average in communications doesn't have the right to act intellectually superior. I was too pissed to reply, so I ignored her. Do you need my help studying? She asked. I can help make it easier for you. Still too enraged, so I snapped, I really need to concentrate on this. Don't you have friends you need to meet soon? She went, it's okay, I can be quiet. Eventually, I got wrapped up in studying and forgot about her. It got dark, so I put down the textbook to turn on the lights, and ended up nearly screaming because Joan was still there. Sitting across me. Staring at me. What do you want to do now? She asked. I'm going to make myself dinner. I told her, where are your friends? I guess they weren't actually planning to hang out. I bet she was just planning to wait outside their apartment and ambush them. I made a dinner for one. I ate a dinner for one. I washed the dishes for the dinner for one. Joan still stayed. I had stopped serving her drinks ages ago, which normally worked for chasing people out of your place, but it was not working for Joan. Throughout the entire thing, she did the same thing where she kept telling all these weird, unconnected /r/thathappen stories. Since by now, I wasn't making any more responses, she decided she should draw me back into the conversation by interspersing her stories with random, inappropriate or stupid questions. Here were some that I remembered. If hot dude wanted her despite having a girlfriend, that wouldn't be cheating, right? Because that bitch should get out of the way of true love. Which of the Kevins should she fuck first? BTW, the Asian Kevin was already in a happy relationship by now. With an extremely hot girl who was as dorky as him. The guy knew he lucked out. Which of the Kevins would I like to fuck first? How many guys have I fucked? When did I lose my virginity? What's the biggest smallest dick I've seen and from what race? BTW, I was still a virgin at this time and not replying to her at all, so you can see how one-sided this interrogation was. What if the Kevins want to have sex with both of us at the same time? Do I prefer white guys? How rich are my parents? Is my dad part of some mob organization for me to be able to go to college in America? I only replied in grunts and pretended to be extremely absorbed in my dinner. I told her I needed to shower and she fucking followed me. I went into the shower and she stood outside the bathroom door, shouting stories/questions through the door. While I was showering. As soon as I was done showering, I finally shoved her out of my apartment. Literally. In a towel. That was how desperate I was. BTW, it was a really hard feat because she was much bigger than me. With her out of the way, I got back to studying. Yes, loser. About 2 hours later, my roommate got back home. Hey, she asked, who's that girl pacing outside our apartment?
This neckbeard thought I was his soulmate and Discord by Scottish_uni. When I was 13 I joined a YouTuber's Discord server and I actually got pretty popular with the YouTubers on there cause I was the first Scottish person on there. That is important for later in the story. Anyway, I kinda got bored and created a YouTube channel to vlog my holiday in Blackpool. I didn't record that much of my holiday cause I got too distracted. I kinda forgot about my channel after I came home, but oh boy, that channel will start a new stalking relationship with my first ever neckbeard. A month later I was being a chill mod in the YouTuber's server when a new guy joins. He had an anime demon PFP and his username was Dax. I'd if that was his real name cause he never told me. I welcome him cause I'm a nice mod, so was everyone else, but I greeted him first. When he immediately joins the VC I'm in with another YouTuber, who was an admin, has a voice changer on and starts saying how he's going to kidnap me and kill me if this admin doesn't do what he wants. I eventually leave because I was having a laughing fit that this guy would think he could do that to me so easily. Boy, this is just the start. I go on Discord the next day and join another VC, same server, with a few friends there, and suddenly Dax joins again. He eventually turns off the voice changer cause he was making an echo with it in the call. What comes next is super creepy to me. He then talks to me like how I'm so sweet and that I'm the perfect girl, and I'm like, I just met you, and then I hear my videos in the background on his side. He was watching my videos over and over again and saying to me how he found me was because of these videos. Let me repeat that. He found me through my videos and somehow found out which server I was in, even though I never linked the server on any video. I got really creeped out and deleted all of my videos and that channel while in the call, and he asks, why did you delete them? I didn't give him an honest answer tbh. The next day he friends me on Discord. I'd quite accepted, and then starts to text me constantly about how I'm his soulmate. He loves me, finds me beautiful and adorable and wants me. I finally get to interrupt him by asking how old he was. He was 18 years old, and was fine with the fact that I was 13. I did tell him like, are you sure you're okay with me being 13? And he said yes because he'd do anything for me. Gross AF. He then constantly texts me until a week later he asks me out. I said no of course, until he kept asking every day and saying Plaza I would be so good to you and that. I somehow cave in and tell him I'll date him online. He lived in America, and then what came next was disturbing. He goes like yay. Finally. Grabs you, picks you up and slaps your ass. Yeah, he did that. Then he called me cause he wanted to see my face. Ew. Then he accidentally shows his face. He was morbidly obese, has the biggest neckbeard I've ever seen. You could even see his triple chin, and was topless while playing a video game. I quickly realized that I don't have to do this just to make some nonce happy and get his ego over the roof, so I dumped him a few minutes after that call. Over the next few months he constantly texts me, talking stuff about all the boys in the server don't treat me like a queen and that the guys there don't deserve my mercy, and when I told him about how they were my friends and told him to stop talking about them, he told me that he's now realized how mean, ugly and selfish I've became, and apparently my friends have corrupted me. Like, excuse me, what mate? I then decided to block him and end it. He immediately left the server and I haven't talked to him since. Edit. The true reason why I blocked him was because he was complaining to me that his friends got blocked in the server and wanted me to fix it. He got his friends to tell me their side of the story, and he kept saying the victim photoshopped all the screenshots to get them banned, which wasn't true. The victim was a guy who told these two dudes to back off and stop flirting with his GF cause she was panicking. They didn't like that and told him threatening messages which they didn't tell me, and the victim ended up crying in VC with me and the admins. I had it with Dax trying to lie to me that his friends did nothing wrong even though he knew nothing about the situation. I told him in cold texts with no sympathy about how they were making this victim cry and were harassing another girl thinking they did nothing wrong. Guess what he said? He said that I was suddenly being rude to him, left the server and tried to pretend nothing happened to talk to me again. That's why I blocked him.
TW, stubble post, Sir Sam phones a friend part 2, or why I got 2 hours of sleep a night during exam week by Lady_Saber. This will be the 4th installment of Sir Sam the Chivalrous, and likely a much shorter read than the others. Player 1 is me, LivelyZebra, 16, foreign exchange student. Going through some stress about midterm exams before Christmas break. Also, very light sleeper. Player 2 is Sir Sam the Chivalrous. All around Busbeard, smells like putrid Budanesca, probably bathes in meat sauce. While I have no in-person contact with Sir Sam in this story, I imagine that he wears all of his fedoras at once while using his phone to boost his chivalry level. This story spans most of exam week, beginning the night of Sam's first fencing tournament and ending the following Thursday. It's Sunday night. I've gotten home from my tourney, showered, had dinner, and gotten in bed. I feel good, finally able to relish my victory in peace. I fall asleep quickly, around 11 o'clock or so. As I mentioned above, I'm a light sleeper. I'll often wake up at bumps and noises at night, or even loud noises in my dream, stare around for 15 seconds, and go right back to sleep. Tonight, I wake up to the buzzing of my phone. New text from some unknown number. It's probably spam, so I go back to sleep. Later, more buzzing. Same number. I unlock my phone, squint like an Asian in the Caribbean against the brightness, and fumble to the new texts. Hey, what's up? Can't sleep, how are you? It's 12:30 a.m. What the hell? I take the bait and respond, who is this? Haha, well hello to you too, LivelyZebra. Can't believe you don't know who this is though, frown. Seriously, it's like 1 a.m. Tell me who this is or I'm blocking this number. Okay, chill. It's Sam. That's all the answer I need. I switch my phone off and try to fall asleep again, before getting back up and responding with, how did you get this number? Oh, well, when I called my mom this afternoon I accidentally called myself first, so I just had your number in my phone and I decided to text you. Dude. Sam, I have a midterm in world history tomorrow. I need to sleep. That's cool. I'm studying anatomy, smile. Why do I even try? I turn my phone off and go back to sleep. Yet, like I'm in some well-timed nightmare, my phone goes off again shortly thereafter. I try to ignore it, but it keeps going. Has calling me. I silence the call, go back to a fitful sleep, until I get another call. I pick up, probably sounding like a drunk Smeagol. Hello? Hey, LivelyZebra. Sam? Yay, hi. Sorry, I couldn't sleep. Hey, what a coincidence, me neither, we must be soulmates or something. Sam, I have a test tomorrow. What do you want? Nothing, just thought you might want someone to talk to. Did you get home safe this afternoon? I know someone who won't be very safe going home. Yay, fine. Sam, I need to sleep. I end the call and look at the clock. It's 4:30. I have to be up in an hour to be on time. I don't dare switch my phone into do not disturb mode, else I miss my wake-up alarm. Texts come trickling in. I feel like crying or screaming or just laughing hysterically. I can't go back to sleep, so I stare at the ceiling for an hour while my phone buzzes like it's on a cocaine high. I eventually drag myself out of bed, and try in vain to cover the bags under my eyes. I do mediocre on my test, coming very close to dropping a letter grade in the class. The next night, same thing. I have a dozen new texts coming in every few hours. Some are short messages, some are the beginnings of an academic paper. I get a lot of picture messages, random funny memes and rage comics, it's 2012, guys, as well as pictures of the final score in his Call of Duty multiplayer matches. They seem to pick up at night, too, like he draws energy from gallons of Monster and streaming gigabytes of Sasha Grey and Asa Akira. I am not sleeping a wink, my eating is off, I have manic bursts of energy followed by hours of uselessness. On Tuesday night, I turn my phone all the way off. I sleep through what would have been my alarm. My host family tries to get me out of bed. They don't know about this whole event, so I break down and spill the Cheetos. I end up sleeping a full 12 hours that day, and then another 4-hour nap in the afternoon. My host mother buys me an alarm clock so that I can leave my phone off the next night. Because I missed an exam, I have to go in on Friday to do a makeup, pushing the family's vacation back one day. I'm pissed. This continues for 3 days. I think this is because Hest never actually had a real LivelyZebra to text, so he's going to take this opportunity and run like a Tumblr user with a new gender identity. Suddenly, those years of beard, straight white boy, and Bettas all come pouring out in a slurry of carbonated cheesy meat sauce. It's a horrifyingly beautiful slow-motion train wreck, which is why it takes me so long to tear myself away. I finally block Sam's number Wednesday afternoon. He figures this out, however, and starts texting me from a different number. At first, he's apologetic, probably realizing that he overdid things a wee bit and is trying to backpedal. Knighthood prevails soon enough. He starts to ask me about John. You guys spend a lot of time together, yay. We're pretty good friends. Oh, just friends? Yes, Sam. So I see I'm not the only one to fall victim to the friend zone, then, haha. I have no idea how to respond, so I just wait. It never takes long. Indeed, well, I really just think John only pays attention to you because of how much makeup you wear and the way you dress. Really, if you want to find someone that can respect you and treat you like a lady, you should present yourself that way and the right guy will find you. Dress for the relationship I want, right? Okay. Have any Rukai propositioned you, Sam? Plus, John doesn't really dress like he has any class, either. John wears bootylicious jeans and muscle tees like a normal hot person. Sam speaks from experience, naturally, having about as much class as a Marxist utopia. I'm pretty done hearing about how gross I am for trying to make myself look good, so I silence my phone and finally get a full night's rest in. Sam walks back his last tirade in a series of pitiful messages that I can't even bring myself to quote for the cringe pain. That Friday, I show up and make up my last exam. I should've known that I couldn't make it out of this week without an encounter with the beast, but hold on to your nachos, because that's the next story.
My fiancée's F20 encounter with a 35-year-old neckbeard. By Gijo 7. DLDR, fiancé is walked to the bus station by a creep from work, that is way too old for her. He makes gross suggestions and gives up as soon as she mentioned me. My fiancée works in a large storage building as a side hustle. She worked until 11 p.m. and started to head home. A co-worker that she saw in passing, the neckbeard, stopped her and asked if she could wait a moment, that he'd walk her to the bus station. So nothing bad happens to her. She agreed since he didn't make any previous moves. And people from that place were generally just friendly. Just the two of them walking to the bus station. After a few minutes of chit-chat, he asked her when she was born. Him, what are you? 1996 or 1997? Her, no haha, year 2000. Him, huh, funny. I thought you were 16 to 17. He says after he literally just assumed she was 3 to 4 years older than she actually is. Him, you know, if you were a bit older, I'd ask you out. Her, well, I'm not Sue. Haha, him, I mean, you're not that young, but. Yeah. After that, he proceeded to tell her about his buddy that is 43 and his GF25. Huge red flags already. After he acknowledges the 15-year difference between their ages. Him, it's a shame. Me and my buddies play DD at my friend's place. We're missing the 5th player. She then gave him signals that she's not interested in that. Him, yay, it would be kinda weird if I brought you to the club with my friends. They'd say whoa, isn't she a bit young? But then I'd tell them you're legal. WTF? He literally made up a scenario in his head, where he would have to explain she's of a legal age. Further proves he knows she's too young, and additionally, admitted he thought she looked even younger. Some conversation passes. He then said he had a bathtub with his name written all over it when he gets back home. She says she's got a PBJ sandwich that has hers. He then asked her if she eats the peanut butter like this. Proceeds to pretend he's pouring a glass of peanut butter in his mouth, with his tongue sticking out. Disgusting. She got nervous as said it was too dense to eat it like that. They walk a bit more, and then she mentioned me. Him, got any plans for the week? Her, yay, I'm gonna hang out with my fiancé. Him, ooh, you could have told me. I wouldn't put so much effort into it then. Wow, the effort he put into basically grooming her. They got on the bus, didn't talk, and he left after saying bye. I'm glad he didn't touch her. That he wasn't making moves after she mentioned me. I would have beaten his fat ass across the entire bus station if he had.
Busbeard the Ren Fair Creep by FuckingHorus. This happened about 2 years ago. My reenactment group was at a Ren Fair where we worked very closely with the organizers. We were doing weapon demos, helping out when the organizers needed someone to do the heavy lifting, and we were also their security service on a budget. Most of the time this was telling drunk shitsters to please leave the fair or looking really scary when the organizers needed to get a point across. We had a radio in camp so they could always get someone if they needed assistance. The fair had small houses with installed showers and restrooms which were open for the merchants and campers to use. One house was for guys, the other for gals. This'll be important later. Enters a beard. This guy was also camping at the fair in a tiny one-man tent with a shitty little camping stove and a sad excuse for period clothing. He wasn't fat but he had a neck beard, some impressive BO, and I saw him multiple times attempting to, kinda, flirt with some of the women camping there in a very creepy way. I heard through the grapevine that he was, in fact, not successful. So one afternoon we just came back from a weapons demo when the radio goes off. The organizer is on the other end and she sounds really pissed and distraught. I didn't hear all of it, but the gist was that she needed our captain to grab a bunch of people and come to the woman's restroom ASAP. Captain grabs everyone still wearing armor and sprints off. They come back like 10 minutes later. The captain is pissed, the organizer seems both disturbed and fucking livid, and everyone else has taken a piss beard into their middle. He's bitching and moaning about how unfair this is the whole time. They sit him down at one of our tables and have 2 of our biggest, meanest looking guys stand guard over him. The captain tells him that if he moves or does anything stupid, he'll have them sit shoulder to shoulder with the beard. Everyone else is told to ignore him and under no circumstances talk to him. The police arrives a bit later, interrogates him and the captain, and searches the beard's tent. He's taken away shortly after that. I'm pretty sure you can guess what happened, but I'll just spell it out anyway. The beard snuck into the woman's shower room, hid in a stall and proceeded to film women while they were showering with a camera hidden in a pen. From the follow-up the captain got the police found more creepy pics in the guy's tent and on his laptop, which they confiscated. TL, Doctor, Busbeard goes full-on creep mode at a Ren Fair. We get to dish out sweet justice. Edit, wording.
Gumbeard Courts M'lady by ms_hide_is_back. Good morrow, fine gentle listeners. About a week ago I wrote to y'all about Gumbeard. I suspected he might turn up again, and to my chagrin, I was correct. He has appeared 3 times, once, thankfully, while I was not working. All of my co-workers have now been informed that they are not to give him any information about me whatsoever, because apparently the time he came in and I was absent, he cornered someone and asked a lot of random questions about me. The first time he came in and I was there, I made myself absolutely unavailable and unseen by switching with Miguel to work on inventorying a recent delivery. I only came out once and managed to outrun him when Gumbeard spotted me. At last, Miguel came to the back to tell me that Gumbeard was gone, and had been wandering the store for a total of 2 hours and 30 minutes, presumably hoping to run into me, consuming bag after bag of Doritos, and leaving a massive mess in his wake. Yes, he did pay for them. I did not see or hear of him for a few days, until last night. I was sweeping the store when the overwhelming scent of 14-year-old boys filled the air. Somebody had clearly just emptied an entire can of Axe deodorant. As I walked through the cloud of prepubescence, I realized that it was only thinly masking a very foul odor. Shit. Gumbeard was at the lottery machine when I rounded the corner. I could smell the BO/Axe from several feet away. I tried to leave before he noticed me, but he saw me and literally shouted my name. "Hide. I knew you were working. I'm so glad I found you. Did you receive the letter I wrote to you?" My manager, Christy, looked up from her paperwork in annoyance. "Sir, please don't shout in store. Did you pay for chips?" "Yes, ladies." He was elbow deep in another bag of Doritos. I escaped, and managed to busy myself elsewhere. I realized he had crop dusted the entire fucking store with Doritos crumbles, dust, and gummy fingerprints. Zach and I started at opposite ends of the store and swept up the mess, each of us returning to the back room with cleaning rags stained orange. That's literally how many nasty handprints there were. Zach was pissed, and told me that he had found a smashed jar of cheese dip in one of the aisles, with orange fingerprints on it. Gumbeard apparently saw fit to leave it there without letting us know, whether he did it on accident or on purpose. Zach spent the better part of 20 minutes picking up glass shards and sopping up goop. When I returned to the front of the store, carrying a huge stack of handcards to hide behind, Gumbeard was holding a massive flower arrangement, which he proceeded to bow and present it to me with all the awkward grace of a massive jelly past the sell-by date. I have never wanted the ground to swallow me whole so much in my life. My cheeks are burning from embarrassment just remembering it. I was absolutely humiliated. My co-workers were alternately frozen in shock or dying of laughter. Zach, still mad about the huge mess we'd cleaned, looked furious. Christy came out of nowhere. Christy is a short, middle-aged Asian woman with all the guff of a disgruntled bulldog. And she was mad. "You, get out of store. You make giant mess. This inappropriate behavior. Stop harass my employees." Like a miniature tornado she herded the astonished Gumbeard out of the store and made shooing motions with her hands. "Get out, stay out. You make big mess." Christy rushed back to me and asked if I was okay, which I thought was really sweet. She looked at the flowers, which Gumbeard had put on the floor after bowing and trying to hand them to me, and shook her head. "You can go put in car." "No, thank you. I do not want them." "Okay, we sell again." Christy picked up the massive arrangement and put it back on the shelf before dusting off her hands and walking away like nothing had happened. I sincerely hope Christy scared him enough that he won't come back. I doubt it. But a girl can hope. DL, doctor, send help.
The introduction of Good Sir Samwell, or Why My Stomach Now Turns at the Smell of Spaghetti Sauce by Lady_Saber. Hi everyone, it's Lady Saber, back with story number 2. This story will very likely have more installments. Player 1 is me, Lady Saber, 16 at the time. I'm Finnish, grew up in Belgium, here in America on a 2-year exchange program. At this time, I'm still new to the country, school, going through a culture shock. I'm heavy into fencing, it's been my sport for something like 10 years. For neckbeards, this seems to make me the katana-wielding m'lady of their wet dreams. Player 2 is smooth-cheeked neckbeard, call him Samwell Tarly just because they've got to be twins, fat as all get out, wears cargo shorts, bazinga shirt, sandals, and yes, the fedora. He also smells like sweat and old spaghetti sauce, and has a really high-pitched nasally voice that sounds like a whiny toddler. Player 3 is John. He shares half of my courses and is really good at chess, has a southern accent that I could listen to all day. I'm keeping his description limited so that I don't sound like an obsessive bitch. I met Samwell at chess club. I'm pretty aware that it's a neckbeard spawn point by now, but I go because I like to play. There are some good apples, like John, so I was there mostly just to talk with him. Today, however, Hess running late, and gets upstaged by Samwell. I'm setting up the board, and the seat across from me is empty, so Samwell asks to play. I tried to politely turn him down, telling him that I was waiting for someone. Sam replies with "Well, I don't see him." I grind my teeth a little at that. Samwell plops into the chair. He introduces himself with a tip of the fedora. I wish I was kidding, I'm not aware of the neckbeard stereotype at this point, otherwise I probably would have lost it right there. I play with Samwell, though, rather than excuse myself. It quickly becomes clear that Hess not familiar with most of the special rules of chess. He accuses me of cheating on more than one occasion, first when I make an en passant capture, then when I castle queenside. He also tries to castle out of check. It's profoundly annoying, not because of what Hess doing, imperfectly willing to teach a new player the rules, but because Hess certain that Hess right about it. He reminds me a lot of Michael Scott from the E-Office, just generally throwing a fit and whining like a child when Hess run, except more annoying and cringy. Samwell is trying to make conversation with me. I'm not really sure what about, because I can't stand to listen to his voice. Hess swearing like a sailor, I guess trying to sound edgy. With his voice, he just sounds like another kid on Xbox Live. I'm not able to tune out his food, however. In the middle of our game he breaks out this all-you-can-eat buffet of pasta, raviolis, and God knows what else all packaged up in Tupperware. Thanks, Mom, my food etiquette is probably a little uptight compared to most Americans, but this was just obscene. Hess shoveling it in mid-sentence, chewing and smacking with his mouth open, spilling stuff on himself. The food by itself smells like death, and his face hole wasn't making things better. Meat sauce residue moves from spoon, to face, to fingers, to chess pieces with alarming speed. We get closer and closer to the end of the game, and Samwell takes longer and longer to move, even when he only has one possible move he can make. Enter John, finally. He sees me playing with Samwell and looks a little hurt that Hess been upstaged, but Hess content to just watch. I can tell John is put off by the smell too. John and I get a small side conversation going, and Samwell is eyeing us back and forth. Samwell asks if John is my boyfriend. Awkward. This is only going two ways. Yes, we are dating, and you're the third wheel, or we aren't dating, and awkward. John and I laugh nervously and tell him no. Chivalry ensues. Why don't you have a boyfriend? Well, I haven't been here for very long. Oh, okay. Well, when you do, make sure you watch out for all the assholes and douchebags at this school who don't know how to really treat a lady. For the record, I was already well acquainted with the nice guy mentality. Call it morbid curiosity, but I decided to press the topic with Samwell. What do you mean? Well, lots of guys, unlike myself, just treat women like objects. Most women have never been treated like a woman by a good guy. I'm not exaggerating this quote by an inch, it's forever etched in my memory like a spaghetti stain on white pants. John is standing to the side and slightly behind Samwell, cocking his head a bit, giving me "is this guy for real?" eyes. I can see the train coming down the tracks, so I try to change the subject, but my good gentle sir cannot neglect to impose upon m'lady his philosophies. Most girls don't realize how beautiful they really are, especially without makeup, so they degrade themselves to get the attention of guys who don't deserve them anyway. Like, I bet if you didn't wear so much makeup, you could get a boyfriend like that 3 tries later. He snapped his fingers. I went from cringe to rage pretty quickly, ended up making a stupid mistake, and the game ended in stalemate, which he treated like a world champion victory. There's not quite enough time left in lunch to play another game with John, but too much time to leave early. I politely decline a handshake with Samwell and stand to talk to John. Samwell, sensing that he is needed in our conversation, pulls himself from his seat. There's really only a narrow lane between the chess tables and the computers. 2 people can stand face to face, but 3 people of normal girth would have trouble. Talk about an elephant in the room. Samwell sidles up next to me, mouth breathing and sweating, injecting himself into our conversation like a bad batch of heroin. I don't quite remember how, but fencing comes up. Samwell's eyes go big. Whoa, you fence? Like with swords? That's so cool. Where do you fence at? I get this question a lot more than you might think. Most people don't really know much about the sport in the US, so this is a pretty harmless way of stimulating conversation about it. I didn't think much of it, and eventually gave him the contact info for the gym I go to. I doubted I'd ever go past Googling it, at most maybe give it to someone else. My coaches here are really fantastic people, so I try to promote them as much as possible. Holy ravioli, I was in for a shock. Fencing practice is coming up next.
My first altercation with magicbeard. By Msnader17. New to posting, so forgive me if I don't know the etiquette. I probably didn't format this right. I met this neckbeard my first semester in college, but let's first introduce the characters. There's me, I'm a short, petite white girl with long red hair. I'm nerdy but not in the classic sense. I don't obsess over the newest Marvel/DC movie, never managed to get into Magic or D&D, don't watch anime, and rarely play popular video games. I'm more the type that loves collecting old comic books, watching old live-action Japanese monster movies, and either play 8-bit classics or indie games that nobody's ever heard of, with minor obsessions with Junji Ito, playing Yukar, and painting Warhammer figurines for my brother-in-law. I don't play. I guess you could call me a hipster of nerdom, which makes it hard for me to find friends. Enter the neckbeard in question that I am going to call magicbeard because he played Magic, without exception, at least 6 hours a day with anyone. Sometimes he would even resort to begging or bribing them to play. He didn't much look like a neckbeard. He was short, only an inch or so taller than me. He was stocky but not fat. He had a lot of hidden muscle, looked a little like Bluto from the old Popeye cartoons, only half Asian and without the facial hair. He dresses well and even smelled okay. He was your classic nerd, loved Marvel and DC, Magic, D&D, WoW, and anime. But he had an appreciation for the old stuff and he knew how to play euchre, which is what first drew me to him. At first he seemed pretty normal and we instantly became friends, and because I am an awkward, antisocial, painfully shy person, he was my only friend. Then it began. And it all started with coffee. I knew he liked me more than a friend at that point. He didn't hide it very well, but I was so aggressively antisocial I knew that if I lost him as a friend I'd probably spend the rest of the term alone. Something I was all too familiar with and not a fan of. I figured I could stave off his advances at least until summer break and then I could have a fresh start. He would buy me coffee at the school cafeteria every single morning, and no matter how much I protested he wouldn't let me leave until I had accepted his gift, sometimes even making me late for my class in the process. Then it was lunch, nothing fancy, but he insisted on buying me food because you're so thin you look like you'll snap. I have to fatten you up a bit, you. And then comic books. At first they were bargain bin stuff of my favorite titles, but then he tried to offer me and the Amazing Spider-Man comic issue 129, the very first appearance of the Punisher, in great condition. My jaw dropped. Of course I had told him how much I had loved the Punisher. Me, is this real? Like, there's no way this is legit. MB, of course it is, only the best for you, smiling and looking at me sideways. Me, internally cringing, I can't accept this, and I'm really hoping you didn't buy this. MB, with a face of disgust, why, is there something wrong with buying a gift for a friend? I'm just trying to be nice. Me, dude, I've looked at the listings for this. This issue can run in the thousands. Also, how the fuck could you even afford this? Just a week ago you were asking to borrow $20. MB, don't worry about it. Look, just take it already. I don't even like the Punisher, so if you don't take it I'm just going to throw it away. I was taken aback by that. Not only was he trying to buy me, but he was willing to blow at least $1,000 in the process. I was hoping that his threat was a hollow one, but I wouldn't have put it past him. He was terrible at managing his money, constantly frivolously spending money, then somehow managing to break his new purchase within a month or so. And any time he wanted something that he couldn't afford he'd go beg his parents for it. I later found out from a friend of his he had begged his parents for the money, claiming it was for car repairs. Me, dude, I'm not taking this. I can't accept a gift like this from a friend. What you do with it is entirely up to you, but I suggest if you dislike the Punisher so much then you should sell it again and hope you can get your money back. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go to class. I start to walk away when he grabs me by the upper arm. MB, hey wait. I turned back, briefly stunned, but then after coming back to my senses I looped my arm around his, ungrasping his hand as I grabbed his forearm and pushed it away from me, silently thanking my parents for the 4 years of karate self-defense classes they'd forced me to take. Me, dude, let go of me. As I start briskly waking away, practically fuming with anger, I hear him throw the comic book across the room and it lands about 4 feet in front of me. I stop, pick it up and look back at him. He's now got a shit-eating grin on his face. I look around the room and see a couple of people sitting at the table closest to me, so I go up to them. Me, excuse me, here, take this free comic book. I don't want it and neither does my friend over there, so it's yours now. I start waking away and I'm almost to the entrance doors of the cafeteria when I hear what can only be described as a roar of neckbeardy anger. I look back and see him storming up to the table where the people were sitting. He grabs the comic book and takes it out of its plastic packaging and while staring directly at me tears it clean in half. I just turn around shaking my head and went off to class.
Busbeard, champion of Bettas by puppinluv. Let me set the scene for you all. I attend university and often encounter individuals of the bearded kind. One I often see on the bus since we both take it around the same time. I dub him Busbeard. I'll go by Lady A, but the first time I actually interacted with this hefty fellow was on the way home from Walmart. This was a couple weeks ago and it was in the middle of a bad snowstorm. I had forgotten to check the weather and, while it was still a clear sky, decided that it had been the perfect day to buy myself a fish. I had just lost my goldfish, Fish Jesus, ignore the name, and wanted something heartier. I decided on a splendid betta male. But after leaving Walmart the weather became terrible. So I took my scarf and bundled my new companion in it to try and buffer him from the cold, hoping he survived the trip home. Once on the bus I got a call from a friend, we started to talk and everything seemed fine. My fishy friend was securely wrapped in a scarf between my thighs for warmth. What can I say, thick thighs do save lives, and I was chatting away with my homegirl. Then all hell broke loose when I started to describe my little guppy to her. And I just saw his little drag queen banner and knew he was the one. I adore him. He's small, pudgy, and always down to fight, ideal betta material. I exclaimed. Now I'll admit I have a problem with volume, it's a fault of mine, I get excited and forget to be quiet, annoying, I know. From down the bus Busbeard emerges, rushing down the aisle towards me. His gut hanging low and too big to comfortably fit between the rows of seats, shirt too tight to fit and showing off his curvy figure, and greasy hair held back in a knotted ponytail. He didn't wear a fedora or have a beard, though his shaving was done poorly so he wasn't totally barefaced. But if Teresa's one thing I've learned, it's not the beard on the outside that counts, it's the beard on the inside that really matters. Anyway, I didn't notice him at first, still happily gushing on the phone. And he was puffing up in front of all the other bettas, fighting to be the top dog. I thought it was hilarious to see him try and have a go at the other guys. I was describing my experience buying my fish and why I picked him. But Busbeard heard something else. He saw another Ched chaser TM. "Excuse me, what did you just say?" he asked me. I didn't think he was talking to me, so I ignored him. "Excuse me, m'lady?" Now I did turn to face him, realizing he was actually trying to talk to me. "Yes, is there something wrong?" I thought perhaps I was being too loud and he was going to ask me to tone it down. "Can you explain what you were just saying to me?" He was quite worked up and I was getting creeper vibes from him. What?" An eloquent response, I know. I said, "Explain what you were just saying to my face." He was getting angry and I looked around to see if anyone else saw this guy too. Several girls a few seats back made sympathetic faces at me, but no one came to help. I was alone to deal with this guy, and I was uncomfortable since he was standing in front of me while I was sitting. This meant his bulging gut was hanging right in front of my face and I could smell his overly applied Old Spice spray over sweat. Not a great situation. "I'm just talking to my friend?" I answer hesitantly, confused by his confrontation. I discreetly hung up on my homegirl. "Yeah, about Bettas though. How dare you?" He actually shook his finger, as if to scold me. "Yes? I'm taking about Bettas? Is that problem?" That was the wrong thing to say. "Not just Bettas. I know you're talking to your asshole BF about me, making fun of me since I offered that girl a seat." Yes, he actually said BF, not boyfriend. He was breathing heavy, nearly shouting now. And suddenly it clicked. He thought I was talking about human beta males to my boyfriend. Specifically, I was mocking him to my asshole BF. I like to use endearments as pet names, all my friends I refer to as honey, dear, babe, etc. So when he heard me talking about betas to a person I call honey, he jumped to wild conclusions and got angry. I went to try and defuse the situation. Now I knew what was happening. "Oh. No, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about my fish, my betta fish. Besides, I don't know you or see you give up your seat, so why would I mock you?" This seemed to only fuel the burning fire in his overworked heart. "Yeah, right, that's a terrible lie. I know you're talking about me, I'm a sociology major, you know, I can read your expressions. You're so dumb if you think I believe you. And that Chad you're fucking agrees with me, He only wants you for your milky chest, you know. This beta you're insulting could treat you 1,000 times better than him. I could really appreciate a chest like yours. Yet you'll only fuck him 'cause he's an alpha male. Yes, he actually did say milky chest. And okay, I will note that while I'm average in body size, not overweight nor skinny, I do have a more generous chest. And apparently, Busbeard had noticed. Saying that, I think I got whiplash from how quickly he changed the topic. Somehow I went from mocking him to rejecting his love. Believe what you want, but I'm telling the truth. I literally just bought a beta and was not talking about you. Thank you. I tried to end the conversation. I had just turned back around, facing away from him when he put his hand on my shoulder. I could feel the grease on it. Ugh. Yeah, right, prove it. He pulled me around. At this point I was upset. How dare he try to manhandle me? You want proof? Here. I spat at him while pulling my bundled scarf from my lap. I yanked off the fabric to reveal a small bowl with my fish inside. The lid on top literally said beta male. I showed off my finned friend before jerking out of his grip and moving several seats up. But Busbeard wasn't done yet. PSSSH, like that's proof. He waddled after me. You're just using it as an excuse to bully me in public. It's ass like you that leave us betas without a mate. You're the reason I'm an incel. I bet you fuck every Chad that looks your way while teasing nice guys like me with your tight bod. He raved while red in the face, huffing and puffing from the exertion. Yes, he said that. Yes, he used those words. I kind of just sat there shocked. I couldn't believe what he was saying. I think I probably looked pretty dumbfounded, just sitting and gaping at him. Geez, okay, well, I was going to respond when I realized we had reached my stop. I gripped my fish and ran for it. Shoving past his girth, I bolted out of the bus and through the snow, bypassing the sidewalk to try and put as much distance between me and Busbeard. I made it home and my little drag queen was fine. He has been thus named RuPaul and lives happily on my desk. I've since had several more encounters with Busbeard, but I can regale you guys with those stories another time if you'd like.
My first neckbeard encounter, Josh. By FinickSexual. I discovered this subreddit about a week ago and have been reading quite a few NBS that were submitted. I've decided to post mine, as it happened during a dark time in my life and has affected me since. Please note, this has taken place over 4 to 5 years ago, and I am in a much better place now. I also am bad with dialogue, so I will only post the parts that I remember, because they've stuck with me. Learn post ahead. I need to explain some context for the story. I grew up with a lot of medical issues that have carried themselves into my middle and high school life. The major two were obsessive-compulsive disorder, physical and mental types, and an undiagnosed eating disorder. My OCD was very bad ever since I was around 9. I had all the physical traits, such as turning doorknobs, over-tightening caps to the point of being impossible to open, and counting/tapping rituals. It's extremely noticeable to anyone that pays attention, and I have gotten bullied for it. I don't have it as bad anymore, but I do struggle with it still. The other one I still struggle with is the mental side. I have intrusive thoughts, impulsivity, and I have severe germophobia. I keep this less noticeable as it's been more embarrassing to me. The EUDA has been more hell for me, if that's even possible. When I started 9th grade, I had lost the ability to keep solid food down. If I ate something, doesn't matter what, I would immediately throw it up a few minutes later. I was kept up nearly every night for weeks with horrible cramps and nausea causing me to miss a lot of school. I have seen countless doctors about it and they all gave me the label of acid reflux, which is total bullshit. I've had to be put on strong prescription medication just so I could stop throwing up and be able to keep even a small amount of bland food down. It took a long time to feel remotely normal, but I had to be enrolled in an online high school for my 10th year. My parents thought this was more acceptable than getting a truant letter in the mail. I was basically bound to my house, and this was my worst year dealing with it. My weight fluctuated frequently, I had no appetite, and I was probably bordering on anorexia. I also lived in the middle of nowhere, and so having a normal social life was non-existent, making me depressed. I'm sorry for rambling, I needed to add this to the story so it would make sense. You wouldn't believe how excited I was when they announced that a new high school was being built in my district. I was also nervous because I hadn't fully recovered, but I had made progress since I first started my 10th year. I had gotten a checkup from my doctor, that was basically my emergency contact for my episodes, if I would be considered healthy enough to go into a public school setting again. I hadn't had my throwing up for a week cycle for several months, however, I still had occasional midnight zipper feelings that eventually went away. I was given a lower dosage of my prescription to help wean me off of it, and to use Pepto-Bismol as a substitute at school. My first semester as a junior went better than I expected. I saw old classmates from 9th grade from my old high school, but also was sad to not see some others. At this point, I had then established a system with the nurses. They knew about my problems, and their office soon became a safe haven for me either when I felt sick to my stomach, or if I needed to sit in a quiet room to calm down from my OCD. I got picked on for my quirks because other kids didn't understand what it was, and the more nervous/anxious I was the worse it got. Bathrooms became a safe spot for me because I could be alone and have my privacy. Also, props to Mary, the head nurse at school, she was like a second mom. I don't know how I would have survived school without her. The second semester was when we had gotten a few new foster home students. I have nothing against kids in the foster care system. They were 2 guys, and a little girl that were all foster siblings. The kids were Cody, who was an 8th year, the little girl, I think her name was Lana, a 4th year, and Josh, who was in my grade. I never met Cody or Lana, they are minor in this story. But I definitely got to know Josh, against my will. If I remember right, I met him in my economics class towards the middle of the day. I didn't know this at the time, but he also shared geometry and English with me. Also, a side note, I was massive neckbait when I was younger as I was obsessed with anime shows. I had friends who watched Naruto and whatnot. I loved Pokémon, Lars, dragons, sci-fi/fantasy/science fiction/horror, and I also was heavy into memes, cringe. I was also into the edgy clothing as well. I wore a lot of band shirts, anything black, fingerless gloves, jewelry from Spencer's and Hot Topic. I listened to German metal, and I'm sure I radiated angst from my heavy makeup. You get the idea. The first time meeting Josh, I wouldn't have known he was a total beard stereotype, because, well, he never grew facial hair during the time I knew him. He actually looked semi-normal, albeit more like a typical geek in high school. He had long, messy brown hair that kind of curled, a round baby face, and some acne. Not obese, but certainly not the greatest of shape. He also had a distinct voice, like he wasn't quite in the midst of puberty, but it sounded too low to be prepubescent. Always wore the same dark hoodie with a very worn graphic on it, I could never tell what it was, and dark blue jeans that required a belt he never wore. He was about 5 feet 11 inches, 6 feet 0 inches, so he towered over 5 feet 0 inches me. I sat in the back row on the left, and he grabbed the seat adjacent to my right after he was introduced to the class. I was having an off day that day because I hardly ate anything at lunch due to my stomach being angry once again, and I had run out of Pepto at their nurse's office, leaving me with no options to medicate myself for the rest of the day. When I have my off days, most of my teachers were understanding and left me to my own devices as long as I didn't disrupt the class and handed in my homework on time. I usually hunched over my desk with a book or drew in a sketch pad. I remember I was finishing my drawing, my initials, and another identifier are blacked out, and towards the last few minutes of class, he turned to see what I was drawing. Out of the corner of my eye, I could tell he was staring at my drawing, then at me, and back at my drawing. He made a comment about how it doesn't really resemble me much and I had said it was a random drawing I made. He then muttered something about how it could have been much better proportioned. I asked him how so. I like critique so I can improve, and he said she looks tall so she must have larger tits. I didn't know how to react to that, so I packed up my things and made my way to my next class, unaware that he was really close behind me in the crowded halls. It wasn't until I abruptly stopped at my locker that he bumped into me, and something that wasn't a binder or a book had heavily brushed my ass. I was a pretty quiet and shy person and didn't know how to speak up for myself. I was really socially awkward and usually let things slide when they shouldn't have. I didn't think much of it at the time, I just wanted my day to be over with and go home to sleep. Little did I know, he would amp up the creep factor and be one of the people who tormented me in school in my senior year. I know this didn't really have a lot of detail on events. I wanted to start with context to the longest 2 years of my life and see if this is something you guys would be interested in. I promise things get even more fucked starting the end of my junior year, and all of my senior year.
The Gym Neckbeard. Todd is watching us from a distance by deleted. This is the story of Todd, a neckbeard who worked at his family's gym. I had a membership there. So did my friend Janice and Carol. Both are built quite small, short, slight, and young-looking, meaning they were the focus of a fair amount of Todd's interest. This gym was not in good shape, and there were some questionable layout choices that had happened over the past 30-some years it had been in business. One was a rather small padded room to the side of the weight room. It had obviously been larger at one point, but some of the space had been borrowed for the weight room. A small half-wall blocked things on one side. On the other was an awkwardly placed mirror at chest height, and a glass door to the outside cut into a glass wall. Before the room was cut, it was apparently the site of aerobics classes in the 80s. Now, it had no official use, but a ton of the patrons had taken to using it for stretching and body weight exercises, as there was no floor space elsewhere. One day, Janice was wrapping up while I stood and chatted with her. I was leaning against the mirror when I saw a ghostly image beside me. I didn't immediately say anything to Janice, and we left for the day. I had only just started getting to know Kelly, the front desk manager, but I sort of cornered her the next day. After making sure that Todd was absent, I asked her up front about the mirror. She admitted it was a two-way mirror. She said it was a holdover from when aerobics class were held back there and used the other door, so that the person in the office could monitor who came in and to keep from having security issues. Then I asked about Todd in the mirror. Kelly got quiet. She got fidgety in her chair. Sometimes Todd went back in the office and watched people, she admitted. And when he did, she tried to just leave him alone and not go back there. She avoided my gaze. I asked what he did back there. Kelly regarded the ceiling with interest, then pondered her shoes. Oh God, no. I finished my workout, seeing Todd come in through the front door. By this time I was damn determined to solve this. As I got ready to leave, I suddenly turned, walked around the counter and headed to the office. Todd was in his cubby under the counter, and the second he noticed me he started yelling that I wasn't allowed back there. But I had already seen into the office, and my suspicions were confirmed. The mirror in the stretching room was two-way, and from the darkened office, you could watch into the room. There was even a comfy stool set up for long-term viewing. I stepped back out, and Todd and I exchanged a look. Kelly had apparently tried to get the mirror removed on numerous occasions, but Todd had overruled her opinion with his mother. So it was time to act independently. So, for the next few days, I started informing everyone at the gym about the mirror. I said that Todd sometimes watched people. I never overtly said that he might be doing more, but I think everyone guessed based on Todd's general weirdness and reputation. People were irate. They started thumbtacking towels over the mirror before they worked out. Someone, presumably Todd, ripped them down, then put a sign up about not damaging the wood with tacks. People tried peering through the mirror and barged their way into the office themselves to see. The sad part was that Todd managed to just leave when people tried to confront them, or threatened to suspend their gym memberships. Unfortunately, Katie was the employee who ended up taking most of the heat. The ditzy owner finally got a call about it. I wasn't there, but Kelly told us afterwards. She decided to make a rare appearance at the gym herself, and was confronted by upset gym-goers threatening to leave if the mirror wasn't removed. It was gone within the week, hastily boarded over with a piece of plywood. During this time I got to see her interact with Todd. She talked to him in a cutesy baby voice, the same as you would use on a lapdog. It was also the first I noticed how much of a bitch she was to Kelly, who basically ran the place. The effects of this were I met a ton of people from the gym. We all were sort of banded together against Todd. But the negative was that Todd had to be more overt with his creeping. With his anonymous viewing spot gone, suddenly he was on the gym floor more often. Considering the gym was about to hire, this wasn't the best of situations.
The Gym Neckbeard, where he gets a parking ticket by deleted. This story is somewhat out of the order and context of the rest of my tales. In fact, it happened before I even moved, back a year or two. I will apologize if it's somewhat lacking, as I heard this third hand. Kelly, as you may remember, was the front desk and office manager at the gym where Todd, the Neckbeard, worked. His mother, Bubbles, owned the place. At the time of this tale she was still somewhat involved in the operation of things. Todd showed up at the gym one day furious, seeking out the sheltering arms of his mother. It seems that his car was ticketed as he was parked nearby. He huffed and puffed, insisting he would fight said ticket in court, while his mother agreed and encouraged him. He shows up sometime later with the presentation he planned to give the judge. Not an argument, no, a full presentation like he was pitching a architectural layout to the board. PowerPoint was involved. Kelly was working at the desk, and he decided to practice on her, despite that she was rather vocally unwilling. Todd apparently had rather practiced pauses, gloating smirks and self-righteous chuckles scripted into the presentation. I can only imagine Kelly was distracted from not having to punch Todd. She didn't actually notice the content of his argument at first until she stopped zoning out and actually looked at the screen. The fine was certainly high, but there was a good reason. It seems that Todd lived across the street from the library, and had parked in their sole handicapped spot, leaving his vehicle there for 2 whole days. 2. His entire argument before the court was that there shouldn't be handicapped parking spots. He was arguing for the right of lazy people everywhere to park wherever they feel necessary. Kelly was disgusted, but when Todd finally finished his lengthy presentation and asked for feedback, she made some noise then went back to work. Todd's day at court happened sometime later. He came back much subdued, being coddled by his mother. Todd never spoke of it again, but Kelly did find out a few tidbits of info from Bubbles. Apparently some of Todd's wind was taken away when he found he couldn't bring his laptop in. But, still, he started into a blowhard speech before being cut off by the judge-like person, not Term, who stated that his sister was in a wheelchair. Most people would know this was a last cause, but it seems Todd still tried launching into his rehearsed speech before the judge just shut him down and sent him off to pay the fine. This was semi-fresh in Kelly's mind when Todd was ranting about his college experience. Todd had gone to the local college, but apparently started elsewhere. The first college, he complained, wouldn't accommodate his disability of ADHD. Apparently he required all exams and tests to be open notebook/laptop, excuses to miss and make up exams, and more. The college, rather unfairly in Todd's book, asked him to provide information from a doctor stating he needed this help before they would make accommodations. However, Todd had never been to a doctor about this issue. The school offered to have him seen there, but he balked. His self-diagnosis was to be enough, especially considering that his mother agreed with him. Todd was apparently rather upset and bad-mouthed at first college to no end. To him, it was important that people with disabilities be recognized and given the help they need. Kelly, to her credit, didn't point out the hypocrisy.
The first encounter with Adrius the Neckbeard or bad puns won't get you laid by only _for_the_ cats. Hi there. Long-time lurker, first-time poster here. Back in 2014, I had the pleasure to hang out with Adrius multiple times, and I must say, he was the finest neckbeard in all Hungary at the time. This story is about the first time we met. The cast. Me, only _for_the_ cats, 17M, your average Hungarian midget. Ima 169 centimeters, 56, short guy with glasses and shit, so not typical Chad material. EO, 17F, a cute girl with short red hair and big green eyes who likes anime, fantasy, and kind of into cosplay. I guess you can call her Beard Babe. She somehow managed to be even shorter than me, around 157 centimeters or 52, which is a huge accomplishment if you ask me. I was into her and she liked me as well, but we were both shy as fuck so we didn't date back then. Victra, 19F, Yo's best friend, a die-hard anime fan. She is very short-tempered and likes to yell Japanese words like baka sometimes, but other than that she is cool. Adrius, 25M, Victra's older brother, a true neckbeard. He is a tall and obese guy, with a well-maintained beer belly, greasy long hair and a double chin, which he hides behind a neckbeard. I first met Adrius in 2014 at the Summer Mondokan. This is Hungary's biggest anime con if I remember correctly. Back in the days I was kind of into anime, attended cons, had lots of friends with same interests etc. I met Yo and Victra maybe a year ago, and we became really good friends so we attended the con together. However, Victra decided to bring her older brother and that's how we first met Adrius. He was a true neckbeard to the bone. Despite the freaking hot weather, he was wearing a black t-shirt, black pants, black boots and a heavy-looking leather trench coat with a stylish black trilby in addition. Now since it was really hot and since he was wearing all that black stuff, and of course the leather coat, he was sweating like hell, and we could smell his foul body odor for miles. He just mumbled something similar to hi to me, but when he saw Yo he produced a ridiculously deep bow with the elegance of a fat pigeon. "M'lady," he said, "it's a true pleasure to meet you in person finally. My sister told me a lot about you, but I must say, her words can't describe your beauty in the real life." Yo was speechless, she didn't know what to say, but fortunately, Victra came to the rescue and said let's go inside. Once we were inside, Victra met with some of her friends we didn't know and decided to hang with them, but this meant we were stuck with Adrius. First it was cool, he seemed like a bit odd but okay guy, the type you usually come across in anime cons anyway, but we soon realized, he has only two topics. Either he was bragging about all the plinka, strong and cheap Hungarian spirit, I highly recommend to try it, best alcohol poisoning you will ever have in your life, he drank last night, or he was telling bad puns with loud and annoying laughter after each one. Here in Hungary we really like bad puns, we have a shit ton of them. I don't know if there is an English equivalent but I try my best to translate one of his jokes for you. Here it goes. Two chocolate bars are walking in the desert. Which one is the guy? Question mark. The one with nuts in it. Yeah, we heard a lot of these jokes in that day. No, it didn't get better with time. He only changed the topic when we arrived at the merch stands, where he started to brag about his enormous katana. He was using exactly these words, with a creepy grin. Once he saw Yo isn't interested in this, he switched tactics and started asking the lady which mercs he can buy her as a present. Yo made clear she doesn't want any present from him, but it didn't stop Adrius from buying a Miku figurine for her because he thought they look alike. Please note that Miku is tall with long green hair while Yo is even smaller than me with short red hair. So yeah, they are like two peas in a pod. We left the con maybe around 7 p.m. with Victra nowhere to be seen, so we decided to stand near the main entrance and wait for her. Right here Adrius felt like it's time to get into M'lady's pants. "So, how about a cafe after this? Or you fancy seeing a movie?" he asked with a nervous chuckle. "Excuse me?" Yo got rattled by that question. "I just asked where do you want to continue our date? Without only underscore for underscore the underscore cats of course," Adrius explained to her. "Sorry but I think this is not a date. I would prefer only underscore for underscore the underscore cats company anyway." That was the wrong answer. Adrius' face turned red in a nanosecond and he started yelling. "This is what I get after this perfect day? After the fucking present? This is my reward? This is what I deserve?" No kidding, he used the word reward. I couldn't believe it too. Then he stormed off leaving us speechless. Ironically this was the time I realized I should ask Yo out. For fuck's sake, if the obese and socially awkward Adrius had the guts I can do it too. So after like 10 minutes of nervous chat about Adrius and his odd behavior, I asked her for a date and to my biggest surprise, she said yes without any hesitation. But that's another story, I guess.
Sammy, or Why Do Women Never Come Back to Our Club? By Corrievrechan. Back when I was in college, there was a nerdy club that would run all sorts of board games and tabletop campaigns. I'm calling it the Nerd Club, or TNC. So TNC was a bit small, but well attended by its 15-20-ish regulars over the time I attended. I have many stories from this club, but I want to start with one of the more disturbing, cringeworthy ones. So I mentioned the club had 15 to 20 attendees. At any given time this was majority men and maybe 5 women including myself. With each new school year, a bunch of people would visit the club, but only a few, mainly men, would keep attending. You might have guessed that this club had a little trouble getting new women to join. Part of this problem was a guy we'll call Sammy. I first met Sammy while walking to the convenience store to grab snacks. It was a short walk from the club to the store, and he offered to go with me, so along we went. Sammy was a bit lanky, with long greasy hair, stark yellow teeth, and a noticeable but not overpowering scent. He may not have had a neckbeard, but the other qualities were there. My young, naive self figured nothing was wrong with some company. Legendaliser, however, intended to proposition his lady. He proceeded to walk just a bit too close to me the whole time, give me some uncomfortable compliments, and talk on and on about himself. He asked me to come to some event that weekend, and despite me saying I wasn't interested, he kept asking. I think I eventually just said maybe. Towards the end of our walk to the store and back, Sammy asked me out to coffee the next day. I said okay, in no small part to escape his increasingly nauseating breath. I figured I would go to coffee to have it over with, but I kept feeling more and more disturbed. Later that day, I told a guy in the club what happened, and that I was a bit creeped out. He plainly said, "Oh yeah, Sammy was the one who sexually assaulted that girl last year." My knowledge of that incident at the time, a guy in the club, Sammy, had, similar to what he did with me, weaseled his way into getting a car ride from a woman in the club. It was just the two of them, with her driving, and after God knows what moves he tried to put on her, he groped and touched her inappropriately. She was terrified. He was immediately kicked out of the club. What I didn't know at the time, Sammy had been allowed back into the club a few months after the incident. He was allowed back on the condition that he wouldn't try to touch or creep on any of the women. This decision was made by just a few guys in the club, because Sammy is actually a good guy and he just messed up. To my knowledge, the woman he groped was not told about it, and none of the women in the club were told what he had done / who he was. Once he was back in, you can bet that Sammy carried right on creeping, and had only learned to be sneakier about it. The reason he asked to walk with me was so he could ask me out without being scolded. It suddenly became crystal clear why we had a tough time keeping women around, even the ones who seemed interested in the club. After I mentioned this, and did some scolding and lecturing, Sammy was kicked out for good. I truly think that the guys who let him come back showed that they didn't give a shit about the safety of the women in the club. I should have left TNC right then and there. Unfortunately, my younger, dumber self apparently needed more red flags to finally stop going to TNC. And indeed, TNC delivered. Pokemon Oh Hell No! By TinyTinasPsychoOtter. First time posting on this sub, I'm also on mobile, obligatory warning and apology for formatting. Cast, Tiny Tina, me, small 5 feet tall maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, complete dork, and apparently beard bait. Lucky me. Fiank, my fiank tall, not perfect build, got a dad bod going on, my sexy beast. Not the most social guy doddles, our trottler, master of mean glares and well-timed screaming the word no. Beardy, do I really need to describe a neckbeard? Moving on. So I'm at the park today hunting Pokemon with my wonderful fiank and our tiny dictator aka Doddles. We are doing our own thing, sitting under a lure while we get situated, catching away, and a wild neckbeard appears. Fiank has noticed this guy has a little bit of blood dripping on his leg, and because he's not a complete dick, he asks if he's okay. Beardy goes and tells us his tale of woe where he got his leg stuck in the gear of his bike where the chain attaches, including acting it out. Okay, not too weird, but he's overly loud and has directed his words at me, not Fiank, who is the one who inquired about his injury. He then tells me, yeah, well, I'm not going to clean it. You see, your blood has stuff in it that when it dries holds off infection. So if I were to clean the blood off and clean the wound, I'm putting myself at risk for infection. Now normally I don't engage, but this time I couldn't hold back. I say, yeah, white blood cells and antibodies are present in your blood, but if the object you injured yourself on is dirty, has rust on it, or is contaminated, not cleaning the wound and letting a fresh scab form is also a risk of infection, not to mention tetanus. Realizing this m'lady has a brain, he shuts up. Normally that would be the end of it, but he isn't scared off just yet. He asks Fiank what Pokemon team he's on, Fiank answers and Beardy scoffs. Then turns to me, let me guess, you picked his team too? I confirm. Then he launches into how his team is so much better, the differences between them, and how he's made a deal with the leaders of the third team to allow them a few gyms in the city, because they're so inferior, but he just felt so bad they never got any gyms. Tiny Tina uses ignore. It's not very effective. He mentions he wishes he wasn't soft banned, which if you know Pokemon Go you get soft banned for a few days for GPS spoofing, making it seem like you're in a different area or country even. Fiank says, dude, if you didn't cheat you wouldn't be banned. Neckbeard responds with, well, technically I didn't spoof my GPS, I gave my login info to my ex in France and she got what I wanted, then I gave it to my brother who's in the Navy and he caught what I wanted. Fiank shrugs and responds, cheating is cheating. Neckbeard is annoyed. He turns to me and says, yeah, my brother is in the Navy, don't suppose you'd understand, but he goes all over the world. I cut him off right there. Actually, I come from a Navy family. I do know how it is. Neckbeard thinks for a second, then says, yeah, well, my brother hates the Navy cause Obama is screwing them over. He was on protection detail for the president and had lunch with him, and my brother had an allergic reaction and the president screamed, I don't have to deal with this, I am the fucking president. And just sat down and did nothing while my brother could have died. Me and Fiank shake our heads and mumble something along the lines of wow, that's awful, and continue trying to ignore him, tend to toddles, and play the damn game we went to the park to play. Suddenly, a gentleman in baggy pants walks past, eyesight in the distance. Neckbeard stands up and says, oh my god, I hate that fucker. I caught him stalking this random girl the other day. I have a conceal carry permit, so I took my 9 out, strapped it to my hip, and confronted him. I told him to stop stalking the girl, and she was there with me. Now all I have to do is tap my hip like this, watch. He pauses to show how he does it, and he won't even come near me anymore. I'd had enough. So in true Pokemon Hunter fashion I stand, grab Toddles and say, ooh, babe, there's a Dratini. And haul ass. I honestly wish this was made up.
Roommate Part 2, The Ninjutsu Tournament by MoeGhostAo. Roommate Part 2, The Ninjutsu Tournament. If there was one thing that John was proud of, it was his hometown. He spent every waking moment trying to convince anyone and everyone how amazing it was. This would be the backdrop to almost all of his stories, though 2 locations there in particular were frequent recurrences, his private high school and his ninjutsu dojo. Yes. His ninjutsu dojo. You see, John was the second most powerful ninja in the entire state, though he made it abundantly clear that he could easily take the coveted rank of ninja master at any time. All he had to do was defeat his sensei in an honorable duel in single combat. This would be no problem for him, as he was a master in every conceivable form of combat. I had asked John multiple times on why he was even bothering with college if he could win an entire dojo with a single duel, but of course, he would never challenge his sensei, it would be unfair, as Sensei was currently battling cancer. He was content in knowing that he would be playing second fiddle. After all, everyone knew who was really top ninja. John bragged about his skills with blades of all kinds on a daily basis, as well as the intensity of the fights he had been in. Snapping people's limbs like twigs, destroying knees, all sorts of brutal takedowns with his martial prowess. This raised a few eyebrows, as several of these takedowns were against fellow ninjas during training, and his mother, painting a clear mental picture of John's lack of knowledge of basic safety practices. We were wrong. John was just that good, as ninjas trained and battled wearing full chainmail. He would literally strike people so hard with his attacks, be it from his trademark shuriken headshot to dual-wielding a katana with a karambit, that it would essentially bypass the chainmail of his opponent. This was why he was the number 2 ninja in both the dojo and the state. This struck me odd though, as at the time I was a member of the local kendo team and had fenced from middle school through high school, because there was no way in hell a practice weapon could cause the damage he talked about dealing. Not to mention a fencing jacket was pretty durable, not to mention a kendo-do breastplate. I could only imagine how hard one must strike to break a bone through chainmail with a sparring weapon. Once again, I was wrong. When I showed John my shinai, bamboo sword used in kendo, he laughed, saying that ninjas sparred with real weapons, while sharpened. Hence the chainmail, which he assured me was like a second skin to his heightened abilities. When Labor Day weekend approached, John announced to us he was returning to his hometown. This wasn't exactly a shock, in fact, it was positively normal. Naturally, this wasn't to last. First, he started talking about his white suit and matching fedora, on top of a $50 shave and haircut. Apparently his high school had invited him back to a Labor Day dance as a motivational speaker. As the first graduate from the, again, private, high school to go to a state school instead of an Ivy League academy, they invited him back to give a speech about how you don't have to go to Harvard to be successful. Don't think about it too hard. Immediately following the dance, however, was a ninjutsu tournament at his dojo. A special tournament, all of the prospective black belts were going to attempt to claim the rank. And how were they going to go about doing that? By defeating John in honorable single combat. He specifically made a point to say that he was the gate guardian of the black belt and that it was his duty to the dojo to be the final test that must be faced to achieve the rank. He played it out like a sacrifice, as it was going to prevent him from having relations with high school girls. John never really followed up about the dance. After he told us about it the first time, he never brought it up again, even when recapping everything that happened over Labor Day weekend. Whether or not he received a standing ovation for getting into a state school is lost to the annals of history. Thankfully, we got a detailed rendition of the tournament. Pantomimed his attacks and everything. He fought 12 successive combatants seeking the black belt, which he denied every single one. The first couple fights he used a katana with a support karambit, deftly dodging all enemy assaults while savaging the black belt petitioners with his superior mastery of the blade. However, due to the sheer ferocity of the battling, he had to discard his katana and eventually even his karambit because he must be able to rely purely on his own two hands. But then fatigue began to set in. He grew sloppy. When he reached the 11th opponent, he begrudgingly drew his emergency kunai, and within seconds of the 11th battle beginning, he threw the knife, while doing his best Naruto impersonation, and struck the opponent between the eyes, resulting in an immediate KO. Fatigue racked at his body as the final, 12th foe took position. John wasn't ready to give up just yet. He knew that the fatigue from 11 prior battles didn't put him at a disadvantage. No, all it did was level out the playing field. John begrudgingly admitted that he tied his last match, though from his own words it was the greatest fight he has ever been in and somehow involved him throwing a shuriken so hard that it buried itself completely into the solid oak walls of the dojo. Despite all this, John didn't so much as have a single bruise on his body, a true testament to his ninja ways. And yet, John and his stories hadn't begun to climax, and his adventures at the university was only beginning. Next time on Roommate, John, prankster, programmer, CIA drone technician.